This is The Process Shot. I'm Michael. I'm stuck in a haunted movie theater, and I'm losing faith in modern filmmaking again. The Assistant is a new psychological drama from director Christopher Stokes, which follows Raven Fields, a successful doctor whose work involves pregnancy, and especially in preventing stillborn babies. Her work is extremely hectic, though, and not only does it impede her personal life, it's causing confusion and delays in her professional life. Her initial search for an assistant results in failure, but a chance meeting with Annie, the new intern, leads to the two not only becoming partners, but close friends, to the point that Annie is invited to move in with Raven and her boyfriend when Raven learns that Annie's homeless. However, she starts to get a bit too comfortable living with Raven, to the point that she becomes dangerously obsessed with her. Now Raven must find the best way to get out of this situation before it's too late. I think that summary might make the story seem bland rather than bad, but the actual series of events as they play out is far less tolerable than all of that. The story is pretty much filled to the brim with cliches and tropes, almost as if the writer was challenged to fit in as many of them into the script as possible and find a way to make it all work out. It's safe to say that they failed. Everything moves along as if there were a narrative through line, but in hindsight it's easy to see how there are more than a handful of scenes that only exist to repeatedly establish a character concept or poorly foreshadow the ending twist, which in itself is a whole mess that is more insulting than confusing, but that's all something which would need more unpacking another time. Let's just say that characters are pretty much one-dimensional and seem to only change depending on whatever a scene might call for. It doesn't help further that the few bits of dialogue we get that is meant to expand upon backstories ends up going ignored after being wrung dry of any dramatic potential. To put it simply, the movie seems as if it were written backwards, beginning with its twist ending and lazily working out ways to justify this revelation. Throw in some bad dialogue, worse story and plot structuring, and a whole lot of crappy acting, and you have all the hallmarks of a film that was made by people who refused to stop and ask if this was a good idea in the first place to even try. I don't think anything else really needs to be said about the film's production and how little of any value seems to be put on the screen. It's pretty much a case of working with what you've got, and in this case it's a hospital building and somebody's house. There are a few other locations, but they're quite literally one scene long before moving back to those other areas, after which they're never seen again. Furthermore, it feels like the filmmakers could only use these locations as long as nothing was touched, which is why characters only really stand around these places and barely interact with the environment. Camera work is equally as flat and uninteresting as the events that they capture, more concerned that lines are being read correctly than telling its story visually. The film's audio is only slightly less lazy, but only because they remembered to use actual microphones. After all of this, there's really nothing else stylistically creative even attempted in any of its imagery. It's extremely basic and by the numbers, just as much as the story itself. In the end, it's hard to say what this movie's going for, simply because there's nothing in its court. Its story is basic, if not offensive, the characters are bland and forgettable, dialogue is unrealistic at best and repetitive at worst, and the overall production and its lack of creative style leaves much to be desired. Most of all, the desire to watch another movie instead. The Assistant, Christopher Stokes, 2023. Half a star. I do not recommend watching this movie at all. Trust me. That's it for this review. If you liked it, leave a like. If you didn't, leave a comment. Subscribe to the channel for more reviews. I suppose you could try and get friends to watch this with and laugh about everything wrong with what's going on. The hard part would be staying friends with them afterwards, I would think.